Good morning and welcome to another episode of Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get-Go Cafe and Market, where they are still featuring the smokestack sandwich.
And thank goodness they are, because that thing is delicious, man. I'm not even going to lie. I love pulled pork, smoked pulled pork. It's just good. I'm getting it after this.
It's authentic. That's my favorite part of it. It's real pulled pork. It's great stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pirates' personality, some of the guys that really kind of stand out between me and Hunter dealing with these guys on a regular basis. And when I ran this past Hunter, he jumps in mid-question, Felipe!
Felipe's the man. I mean, this guy, literally, just being around him, you feel cooler, right? Like,
I don't know about
less,
I don't necessarily.
Cool. Maybe less cool because
definitely
by comparison,
less cool.
He just drags you down. You can't be as cool as this guy. He's on his Instagram, like, posting about fishing and all this quirky stuff that you wouldn't necessarily expect because he's so all business and fierce on the mound. But then in the locker room, he's just casual cool, like the coolest guy.
You know, they have these little cars, these little tractors, these toy. Do you know what I'm talking about? What are these things?
I honestly have no clue what they are, but I know what you're talking about.
It's like this miniature. Anyway, last year, this was at Dodger Stadium. He was rolling around in this thing like a 3-year-old and just like this, everybody. And you can say to yourself, okay, awesome. This is the closer being the eccentric closer, right? But Felipe is just exactly that. Yeah. Authentic. He and Joe Musgrove went for a walking tour through the north side a week ago to try to drum up votes for Josh Bell. And you could tell the two of them, and Musgrove's his own entity too in this regard, just really had a great time doing it. They weren't dragged there by some community PR person.
That's what I was going to say. This was no PR push. I mean, of course it was to a degree, but they didn't have to twist their arm too much to get those two to go out. And that's what I love about Felipe is the contrast between him on the mound versus him in the locker room is amazing.
Yeah, although, you know, the funny thing is, Felipe on the mound, he has some of that fun too. When I get into his head sometimes about why he threw a certain pitch or what he did, and you get some of those responses from him, they're gold because he's out there having fun as well because he knows he's that much better than the hitter that he's facing. So the other guy that went on the north side walking trip has his own really fun personality too, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Musgrove, after the one game when I was talking to him about coffee, again, in case you can't tell my process here, I stalk their social media accounts and then bring up topics that I notice are hugely relevant to them. So Musgrove is a huge coffee head. I'm talking like craft artisan coffee. The dude knows his coffee. His parents actually owned a coffee shop. So I found that really interesting, and just to talk to him on a topic like that, and it was just so clear, like, the dude knows his stuff.
No, Joe Musgrove's an interesting person on so many levels, and a passionate one. He's not as silly as Vasquez, so I don't want to paint him that way. He has a very, very serious side as well. He's incredibly competitive. I think you've seen that on the mound. In addition to his athleticism, the way he fields the position, the emotion that he shows, I think the emotion gets in his way at times as a starting pitcher. We've seen that work for both the really, really good back in April and the first week of May, and then the really, really bad over the next 5-6 weeks. He has to find, I think, an equilibrium there. And that's going to happen for him the way it does for a lot of baseball players off the field before it does on the field.
Yeah, and Musgrove in particular, one of my favorite things was the Donaldson little scuffle with the break.
Yeah.
If there's one guy on the Pirates, this is no joke, Josh Bell, one guy on the Pirates that I'm not going to try to fight, it's Joe Musgrove.
Yeah, and again, I mean, the way Donaldson, you know, he's looking at it, and Josh Donaldson says, "Are you looking at me?" And Musgrove's, "No, wait, are you looking at me?"
Yeah, I'm the guy here.
I'm the guy. And then, isn't it funny how that skirmish ended so quickly when the first baseman popped his head into it? And speaking of the first baseman, I don't have enough good things to say about Josh Bell. I wish that more people were aware of what kind of a cerebral is not an overstatement.
No.
I mean, you're talking about someone who's smart way beyond what you expect from a typical professional athlete. I would put him and Trevor Williams probably in that category, and Bell maybe even above that. He similarly, though, and I wrote about this a lot last year when he was struggling, was overthinking things. And I mean that in the most literal sense of the term. He was doing quantum physics with every plate appearance. Yeah. And it wasn't until he just became this cool, relaxed version of Josh Bell that just allowed himself to be coached, allowed himself to be instructed, to stay in one spot, that he started becoming, Willie Stargell Jr.
Right, and it's amazing to watch him flourish, because I was just reading your preseason from Houston this morning. I was rereading that, and it's really interesting how what he said became reality. And it's just
crazy, right?
It's a testament, because you hear that all the time, like the law of attraction. I truly think that he spoke some of these things into existence, and that's just how invested he was in bouncing back, and with his mind, just made it happen.
And he built up the confidence, and again, a lot of this is to the credit, and boy, would he be angry if he saw this and did not have us mention both Rick Eckstein and Jacob Cruz, his hitting coaches with the Pirates, who deserve an awful lot of credit, because what they basically did was they planted his feet into one spot in the batter's box. Clint Hurdle had a lot to do with this too, by the way, because although Hurdle pushed this message on him last year and he didn't listen, this year Eckstein and Cruz got him to listen and said, you have one approach. You are to believe in this approach. You are to disregard outcomes, results. So the day that I didn't put this in that column, but the day that we spoke in Houston, this was back in March, one of those exhibition games, he looked like crap at the plate. He had a couple of bad swings. He rolled over to second base, 4-3, bounce out, whatever. And yet he still spoke that confidently, because he knew where the process was headed and he wasn't worried about the results. And that tells you so much about what's up here with him.
And that's day to day. Every time I've interacted with him, it doesn't change. That's been his demeanor this entire season.
Ball in the river, he'll just stand there and talk to you about what kind of pitch he got. Right. Now he trusted whatever, and Rick Eckstein gave him some spot in the zone to focus in on, and he gives all the credit to Eckstein, and that's that. He goes 0 for 4 with 3 Ks, leaves the bases loaded at the end of the game. What's his face look like?
Same as it does if he blasted it into the river.
Same thing.
It's amazing.